is this what you're actually, who is speaking to me in the spirit talker? That would be interesting to know, right?
Before crossing the threshold of the house, the team stopped somewhere quieter. They paid their respects to Ed Warren and Lorraine Warren, buried together at St. Bernard Cemetery in Rockville, part of Vernon, Connecticut. It was not a ritual, it was not a request, it was acknowledgement. The Warrens believed intention mattered, that how you entered a case shaped what followed. Standing at their gravesite, the team understood that this investigation did not begin at the front door of the house. It began here, in stillness, with respect for the people who spent their lives confronting what most never see. Only after that moment did the team continue on, and when they finally arrived at the Warrens' home, it was clear they were not just entering a location. They were stepping into a legacy that was very much aware of being remembered.
She died from?
She died from Alzheimer's. Yeah, it was sad. It broke my heart actually, because I think the last time I saw her was 3 weeks before she died. And every time I saw her for years, I'd bring her flowers every single time I come up here. And I gave her flowers, and Judy was here, her daughter. And she looked at Judy and she goes, "Oh, look at these beautiful flowers this lovely man gave me." She didn't know who I was. Killed me.
It's a long time, Tony. It was over 50 years ago that we began as husband and wife to do it. Not long after Ed came home, after serving in World War II, he began talking about that home he grew up in Bridgeport. Began talking about the hauntings that had occurred there. That was really hard for me to accept that. I had never been in a haunted home, but I always had something about myself I didn't understand, and that was an ability to know things through extrasensory perception.
Paranormal Recon, Rudy, Joy, Butch, Jen, and Donna arrived not at a set, not at a soundstage, but at one of the most myth-soaked locations in modern paranormal history. The home where decades of unexplained cases were cataloged, studied, and, in some cases, away. This was not a reenactment. This was not a dramatization. This was a real investigation. After a detailed briefing, the team began deploying their equipment. EMF meters calibrated, REM pods armed, dead bells positioned, cameras rolling, and almost immediately, the house responded. Not slowly, not subtly. Activity began the moment the environment changed, as if something inside had been waiting for permission to speak. At exactly 8 p.m., the doors to the Occult Museum were opened. What followed defied pacing, expectation, and experience. Devices triggered in succession. Signals overlapped, correlations stacked. The kind of sustained interaction investigators hope for, but rarely get, continued relentlessly, hour after hour without pause.
Okay, so here we are in the Warren house. We just set up a few things. We're getting lots of activity. Here's my friend Butch. He came to hang out with us for this adventure. Walk through, take a step down into the living room. There's Joy on the couch in Warren house. Donna, Jen.
And somebody else.
And somebody else.
Nobody's telling me who it is.
Apparently.
I've been asking.
So we're sitting here, and we got a REM pod in here, a REM pod in there. They've been going off like crazy.
During the investigation at the Warren house, the team had access to a focused set of interaction-based and monitoring equipment.
That's continually going off. And then that Bible detector, that's been going off pretty much non-stop. So that's pretty wild. Go through here, downstairs.
Do you remember in one of them you said something that was like 30
To the basement.
years old, or-
And here's the basement. This is, again, we were talking about this before. There's the tripwire once again. Pretty cool, right? So, I don't know. That's a new noise. I think they... Did you find a new toy?
The music box.
Oh, really?
Yeah, saw it in the video. That's what it's like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Elton said this one was old. It was his favorite piece, and it's about 30 years old.
Okay.
And he said it's, to his knowledge, always like 100% accurate.
Cool.
I mean, I'm sure it's going off right now just because we're standing around.
Yep. So here we are. And I do have to say, when everybody stepped in this room, everybody felt some sort of energy, some type of anxiety, some type of something in their person, which is wild. And again, then said to be just the most active room. So we'll see, we'll check it out. It's only 7 o'clock, so things are already going buck nutty. So this is going to be an adventure for sure. Very cool.
While you're asking, we know what the question was.
Right, now you can do picture-in-picture type of the thing where you're playing both at the same time and you see the responses to you.
This was not random noise. This was intelligent, consistent, and unmistakably aware.
These dolls are said to all be haunted. These are dolls that have been sent to the Warrens over time. They just gather them all up in here.
Part of the night was spent below the house, in the Warrens' basement, their former investigation planning room, command center, and quiet workspace where cases were mapped, notes were compared, and decisions were made about what could be handled and what could not. This space was never meant for an audience. It was meant for preparation. It is also home to dozens of haunted dolls, each one surrendered to Ed and Lorraine by families who could no longer live with what followed them home. Objects tied to disturbances, attachments, and escalating activity, removed not as curiosities but as acts of desperation. The basement sits adjacent to the Occult Museum, close enough that boundaries blur, close enough that energy does not always respect walls. Here, the atmosphere is different, heavier, more intimate. The kind of space where investigators don't raise their voices, not out of fear, but out of instinct. Equipment behaves differently. EMF fluctuations linger longer. Responses feel closer, less performative, more personal. This was not a display room. This was where the Warrens planned how to survive what they were facing. And on this night, standing in the same basement where so many cases were once prepared, the team began to understand something important. Not every haunted object wants attention, but every one of them remembers being acknowledged.
Now, Ed, would you want to just tell a little bit about some of the things, perhaps, that are in that museum that are really fascinating, scary things, perhaps, that you've collected over the years?
All right, I think one of the most famous would be Annabelle. This is a Raggedy Ann doll that's made like thousands of other dolls, except that this doll was used in communication, almost like having a seance. A nurse had received the doll 1971 as a present, a Christmas present from her mother. And the doll stands about 3 foot high, and she would take it to bed with her at night. That's common enough for girls to do. I take a pillow. Some people take a doll. Girls would like that, even 28-year-old ones. And after a few nights, she lived with another girl who was a nurse, both of them Hartford Hospital.
Hartford Hospital?
It was Hartford Hospital, honey.
And they were on the same shift, and so they worked together, they lived together, they shared the expenses. And one morning she got this idea to bring the doll from the bedroom into the kitchen where they were having breakfast, and she put it in a chair. And she said, "Oh, Raggedy Ann here's going to have breakfast with us today," joking around. Okay, well, that was a joke. Then the next thing,
Bless you.
the next thing, she brought it down again the next morning and the next morning. But the third morning, they're talking to the doll, and the arms of the doll are on the chair like this. Suddenly they went up and onto the table. Now this didn't frighten them. This intrigued them to the extent that the one nurse said to the other one of the nurses knows a medium. Let's ask her about this. I'll bet you there's a spirit in that doll. That's what they did. They asked this nurse about it, and she said, yeah. She said, I know a woman who is a medium. I'll bring her over, and we'll hold a seance. It was a joke, just a game. But it didn't turn out to be a game. It turned out to be one of the most horrifying experiences they'd ever have in their life. And I've talked with people just recently, as recent as 2 months ago, who know the two nurses. And even today, they don't like to talk about it. They'll never come to our lectures. They don't want to talk about Raggedy Ann, Annabelle at all. So now the woman holds a seance, and she said, there's a spirit of a 6-year-old girl in that doll who was killed in an automobile accident just outside of your apartment house here. Well, there was a 6-year-old child by the name of Annabelle who was killed. But God does not allow the spirit of a child to go into a doll. This was a demon who was posing as that little child to create sympathy to these two young women, which it did. Now this was no longer a doll. This was a child. They would take it for rides. They'd talk to it. They'd buy clothing for it, jewelry. They treated it just as though it was that little girl who was killed, Annabelle. Now they were giving it a lot of recognition. Soon after the first seance, things would happen in their house, what we refer to as infestation. There would be knocking sounds. They'd see flashing lights in their bedroom at night, shooting across the room. The bed would shake a little bit. It would get icy cold. They'd hear whispering, which we call magic whispering. Now, from time to time, these girls would change shifts, but they were getting a little scared now. So they decided to stay on the same shift all the time, 4 to 12. They'd leave the doll in the bedroom. They'd come home after midnight, put the key in the door, unlock the door, and who do you think is standing there? The Raggedy Ann doll.
Standing there.
Now, that doll has flimsy legs.
Yeah.
If you try to stand it up, you can't. But I've seen that doll stand. I've seen a lot of things happen around that doll. Well, this still didn't scare them. But one of the fiancés of one of the girls was against all of this. He said, burn the doll, throw it away, get rid of it. It's evil. Well, he falls asleep one afternoon, a Saturday, and the doll is in a chair not far from him, and the girls are cleaning up the apartment. He wakes up with a start. He said, my God, what a nightmare. He said, I dreamt that doll was strangling me. He had marks on his throat. Was it psychosomatic? Well, let's see. He gets up, he looks at the doll in the chair, picks it up, and throws it right across the room. You're nothing but a rag doll. You couldn't hurt anyone. With that, Tony, 7 psychic slashes appear on his body. Wow. Now, we've seen these kind of slashes. We've filmed them. These slashes come from nowhere. The blood came right through his shirt. The nurses witnessed this. Then, a huge chair rolled across the room. Pictures on the walls came off, started smashing and breaking. Loud pounding sounds. Now they were all frightened. They called the High Episcopal Canon in Hartford, Connecticut. He called Father Richard Nolan, an exorcist, and Father Nolan called us. We went to the apartment. Exorcism was performed immediately over the people, the 3 people, and the apartment. I brought that doll back to my museum. Now, why would I have something like that in a museum? Evidence, proof. The skeptics, the atheists, the first thing they attack you with is, where's the evidence? Where's the proof? This never happened. I not only have the doll, I have film, I have recordings, I have eyewitness accounts from credible people who have seen these phenomena happen in and around that doll.
Dude, I don't think I've ever been in such an active house before. I can tell you, I have never been in such an active house before. Demanding. Everything is going buck nutty since we set it up. So, we haven't asked any questions yet. We haven't really done any investigating yet. All we've really done so far is, just set things up. But something wants to talk to us. Right? You feel like talking? Loving it.
The moment the door to the tunnel was opened, the narrow passage leading directly into the Occult Museum, the atmosphere changed. Not dramatically, not theatrically, subtly enough to make everyone notice at the same time. The air felt thicker, heavier, as if the space itself had weight. This tunnel was never meant for spectacle. It was a working corridor, a controlled transition between the Warrens' planning space and the objects they had removed from circulation.
Just taking a tour around the museum really quick. Freaky stuff. It's the Bible from the house at Amityville.
When the team was granted access, it felt less like entering a room and more like crossing a boundary. Conversations quieted. Movements slowed. Equipment was checked twice. Not out of habit, but instinct. Inside the museum, items are not arranged for shock value. They are catalogued, documented, and isolated. Each object represents a case that escalated past explanation, past tolerance, past denial. These were not collected. They were surrendered, given up by people who ran out of options and needed the activity to stop. Standing there, it became clear why the Warrens treated this space with such discipline. These objects are inert only by agreement, contained by rules, rituals, and respect. The museum does not feel loud. It feels alert, as if everything inside is listening, aware that it has been acknowledged again. This was not a room full of haunted things. It was a room full of unresolved stories. And once the door closed behind the team, there was no mistaking it. The house knew exactly where they were.
And, of course, the star of the show, Miss Annabelle.
Quickly end that one.
A group of college students came one day. One of them said there's nothing but a bunch of bunk. I don't believe in it. He went over to the Raggedy Ann doll, which is in a case, knocking on it. He said, this doll can't do anything. I dare it right now to put slashes on me. I put him out of the building. Less than 3 hours later, that boy was dead. His girlfriend, who had been with him on a motorcycle, said he was laughing about the doll, smashed into a tree, head on, was killed instantly. His girlfriend was in a hospital for over a year.
That's
You
unbelievable.
don't challenge devils.
The star of the show, Miss Annabelle, who will not be coming out of this case, but let me see if we can ask her some questions. See how this goes.
With dowsing rods in hand, Rudy stepped forward, not toward a curiosity, not toward a legend, but toward a containment case that has never been treated lightly. This was not an attempt to contact a doll. That distinction matters. The object itself has never been considered the source. The focus was the entity attached to it.
Here's some questions. See what happens. Guess we're not really going to know who's answering us unless something actually decides to move, in which case we're probably all going to speed out of here very quickly. If there's somebody here with us, cross the rods. If there's anything here with us, cross the rods. Anyone in this room with us, cross the rods. Okay, I'm going to take that as a yes. Are you attached to an item in this room? Uncross the rods. Are you attached to an item in this room? Are you attached to the room? Uncross the rods. Are you attached to a person that had been in this room? Uncross the rods. If what you're attached to in this room is on my side of the room, uncross the rods. If it's on the opposite side of the room, uncross the rods. If you're attached to those two creepy as fuck marionettes, uncross the rods. if you had once been living, uncross the rods. If you are something that has never been living.
At the time, it felt uneventful. Aside from minimal movement of the dowsing rods, the session inside the Occult Museum appeared calm, almost disappointingly so. No dramatic spikes, no obvious reactions. The kind of quiet investigators sometimes mistake for nothing happening at all. The team wrapped the session with the assumption that, at least on the surface, there had been little response. That assumption did not survive the playback. When the audio was reviewed later, the room revealed a different story. Embedded beneath the investigators' voices were responses, low, strained sounds that did not belong to anyone present. Grunts, growls, vocalizations that coincided precisely with the questions being asked. Not random noise, not mechanical interference, timed answers. More unsettling still, each of these sounds aligned with the activation of the dead bell. Every response triggered it. Review of the audio that Joy captured had revealed responses that hadn't been heard in the moment. Timing that lined up too cleanly, answers that arrived too close to questions to ignore. The kind of evidence that doesn't calm investigators down. It pulls them back in. Fueled by what had already been captured, Rudy made a decision. He returned to the Occult Museum alone. No team, no overlapping footsteps, no voices to contaminate the session. Just a spirit box, rolling cameras, and a room full of objects that had already proven they were listening. This was round 2, not to provoke, not to challenge, but to clarify. To slow the pace, to isolate the signal, to see what happens when the noise is stripped away and the questions are asked one voice at a time. In paranormal investigation, isolation is a double-edged sword. It reduces interference, but it also removes protection. Alone in the museum, every sound carries farther. Every response feels closer. There is no one else to confirm what you heard or didn't hear.
Who is here with me? Who is here in this room with me? Is this someone who has passed? Is this someone who has never had life?
Over there with the bones and stuff, and
the
something
voice?
made
She
a
heard
sound.
something. Yeah, she heard something in between
I was like,
talking.
was that you? He's like, no, I
No,
didn't.
between what I said, she heard something in between. Well, she said, oh, so when we walked into that hallway, we turned the light off. She saw an orb in there.
Oh, really?
Down
Yeah.
Whatever we've been seeing all
And when we
night.
turned the lights on, went whoop, and took off. She said, I don't know. I didn't see it, but she saw it.
Apparently, when you go in there and you turn the light off, I'll probably see it on the security cameras again.
It attacked my knee.
It was about knee height.
I felt it. Knee whacker you.
Among the items in the museum are the Annabelle doll, the most infamous containment case. The doll is not believed to be the source, but a focal object for an attached demonic entity. Haunted dolls, dozens of them surrendered after causing disturbances, attachments, or escalating activity in homes. Cursed objects, jewelry, masks, figurines, and talismans linked to illness, violence, or persistent phenomena. Ritual objects, items used in occult practices, including ceremonial tools and spell-related artifacts. Satanic relics, objects recovered from ritual sites or investigations involving occult groups. Graveyard artifacts, items taken from burial sites that allegedly carried attachments. Haunted mirrors, associated with apparitions, shadow figures, or psychological effects. Music boxes and children's toys, linked to auditory phenomena and movement paintings and artwork, reported to cause nightmares emotional distress, or visual anomalies. Idols and religious inversions. Objects believed to provoke reactions when near sacred symbols. Some items were reportedly removed, recontained, or relocated over the years as conditions changed.
Through the tunnel. Oh, back to the house. Okay. Of course. What do we got going on in here? Now the house is seeming a bit more active than the museum, which is really interesting. Oh, damn it. Every time. Do you think that's funny? It's freaking hysterical, isn't it? What do you got for me? Anything? Whew. Thanks.
The equipment buzzed, beeped, and rang without relief. EMF meters spiked and settled, only to spike again. REM pods pulsed. Dead bells rang in patterns that refused to feel accidental. For hours, the devices spoke over one another, layered, relentless, as if the house itself was answering faster than it could be questioned. And it didn't slow down. The activity continued deep into the night, pressing forward minute by minute, until 2:30 a.m. Then, without warning, it stopped. Not gradually, not unevenly. As if a light switch had been thrown, the connection went dark. The alarms fell silent, the bells stilled, the meters flatlined. The space that had been alive with response only moments earlier collapsed into a quiet so complete it felt unnatural. It wasn't the absence of noise that unsettled the team. It was the timing. Because whatever had been engaging all night didn't fade away. It chose to disconnect. And in that sudden silence, it became clear the investigation hadn't ended because the team was finished. It ended because something else decided the conversation was over.
Yes, thank you.
The team continues a meticulous review of the photographic evidence, scrutinizing each image for mist-like or reflective anomalies that may have gone unnoticed in real time. A deliberate, time-intensive process that prioritizes accuracy over assumption.
You can walk over if you like. You're allowed to be on tape.
I'll
So-
prefer to stay off screen.